Attention listeners, AfterSight's annual hike is coming up on July 27th.
It was a really good experience for me.
Visit aftersight.org/hike and become an audio trekker today.
That hike today gave me so much courage.
Hey, you're listening to Blindsight. Let's go. Mental health isn't something to take lightly. It's time to fight. It's time to thrive. Let's do this.
Hi there. Welcome to Blindsight. This is your host, Bill Lundgren. And before I introduce our guest, I have to make a couple of announcements just to get everything set up here. Number one, we want to let you know in June, there will be a sports program podcast talking about athletics and blind athletes, and that's going to be very exciting, and it's called Game Changer. So look for that in June. And second of all, during the month of May, and this is our first in the series, we'll be talking about mental health issues in relation to women, which will be just great. But we want to let you know if you have any questions or any suggestions for people or for programs on this program, Blindsight, don't hesitate to contact us either by phone, which is 720-712-8856, or feedback at aftersight.org. So remember those, and I'll try to repeat them at the end of the program. But anyway, in light of our month-long discussion of mental health issues in relation to women, I am very delighted to welcome to this program Nancy Solari, who has agreed to join us and talk about relationships and issues pertinent to the month-long discussion. Nancy, welcome to Blindsight.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, I'll get right into it because this is a really important subject, but I wanted to ask just a little bit, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, greetings from Huntington Beach in California. That's where I'm at. But I have what's called retinitis pigmentosa, and was actually diagnosed back when I was 16. And I have two sisters that have it as well. I'm the youngest of the three, but we all have the same condition and have seen our vision go, pretty severely bye-bye over the years. And I am, proud mom of two fur babies, my guide dog Frost and my little Chihuahua Charlie. And so, I think life is kind of twisty, right? Whether it's a heartbreak of a love heartbreak or eyesight loss or whatever it is, but I think you just power through.
Oh, great. I'll tell you that I also have RP. And my younger sister also had it, so I know from whence you come, but I didn't find out about it until much later than you. But what we want to get into is talking about, you're going to be on Penn Street's program, and you're going to be talking more about your history. But if you could give us just a very quick thumbnail about what life has been like for you to this point.
With regards to my vision loss, mainly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. When we got the diagnosis, and again, I was 16, just got my license, the ophthalmologist at the time said that we would all be blind by 40. And, I don't want anyone quizzing me on those, big E, small e letters anymore. I can't see them. I can still see light and dark, but as you know, RP takes away night blindness, color blindness, depth perception loss, you name it. So the journey for me over the years from 16 till now has been that subtle loss. It's almost like it took a jump every 2 years. And you start to see lines on the road disappear. So I gave up driving. You start to see font on paper disappear, and so everything to me is just white paper at this point. Or losing the ability to see a computer screen. And then I learned Zoom text, and then I graduated to JAWS, and you just kind of use different technology with the vision loss occurring. I mean, I remember when I used to use CCTVs, but now I can't see those either. So really everything in my world is audio. And, then I think probably the hardest one is when you start to see faces disappear, and really had to wrap my head around that one, because it was hard to, of course, meeting that person across the room if you can't see them, or just being amongst friends and not having that same ability to make that connection, eye to eye. But then
Right.
again, there's freedom in that too. I guess I don't see homeless. I don't see race. I don't see, I meet people based upon their aura, their personality, their hug.
Well, I think that's one of the hardest things, at least for me, and I may be speaking for quite a few people in the audience, as you are. How do we cope with meeting people, get a sense of what they're like, who they are, and so forth, if you have very little vision?
Yeah, that is, I think that's really important. I think it really comes down to trusting, to be honest. I don't know. One of my siblings, she didn't want to use a white cane or have a guide dog, because she was kind of stuck in the place of, then someone could rob me, or, they know I can't see. And I guess it's easier for me when people know I can't see, but I really had to find my own languaging, because for a while I would say, "Hi, I'm Nancy. I don't see very well." But what does that mean? Does that mean I don't have my contacts in? It really means I really can't see your face, right? So then I had to start really being honest with telling people, okay, hi, I'm Nancy. I can't see your face. So if you see me first, make sure you say my name, right? Like you really have to frame it up and let people know kind of what's reality.
Mm-hmm. And how do people treat you as a woman with blindness?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think it depends in what dynamics. So most people are, I guess, a little bit confused sometimes, or this is what people who watch me interact with others say, because I'm pretty good at, even though I can't see their face, I'm pretty good at hitting the eye line. But, there are times where I might look over at someone, and I guess sometimes I'm looking a little bit above, like at their forehead. And so I'm trying to kind of be mindful, and in my mind really hit that spot where I think I'm at their eye line. And I think for the most part, people are loving. If I go on a date, let's say, and I haven't had a ton of dialogue with them, because when you do a dating app, you don't always, sometimes you can tell somebody you don't see, but until they're actually with you in person, then they're like, oh, wow. She really can't see, And so
Right.
I think you kind of have to, so people sometimes have to experience me. But then I will have people on my colleagues I work with, and they forget all the time. They're like, hey, Nancy, take a look at this. And I'm like, all right, I'll get right on that. Right. But they just forget, because they know I'm kind of smart and with it work wise, that they just forget, oh, wait, she can't see this PDF.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We almost become a little too competent, and people forget.
Pretty much, I would say that, and so you kind of have to find this balance between being confident, not letting RP or any eye condition, take your power. But then you got to balance that with being honest and knowing that people are not mind readers.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is that women in general, and I know I'm stereotyping, but that's what we have to start with. Women are expected to be the caretakers, expected to, they're not expected to be aggressive, or even sometimes they treat a woman who's an executive very differently than a man. And in terms of relationships, women, quote unquote, are supposed to wait for the person of the opposite sex to make the move, so to speak. And that's got to make you feel pretty vulnerable.
I think I would say yes to that, but I think in some ways, I guess if I'm just talking about, let's say, dating, I actually control more elements than I let the guy control. Meaning that, I will actually show up to our date early. I will actually get there early. I will actually have met the host. I will meet the server. They already know I can't see. I'll pick the table that has the best lighting, or what I think maybe has a four top where we can sit side by side. Like, when I'm first meeting somebody, I kind of go with the elements that are best for me. And then from there, once we're on our second date, third date, and they've met me, they know I can't see this, then sky's the limit. Then I'll take every surprise in the book. But I think in the very beginning, I do try to control those elements. Or if I'm going to like a networking event at a hotel, I'll call ahead. I'll ask, when I get there, could someone help me find the ballroom? Or could I sit in the front row? Can I sit? Is there a seat near an outlet where I can plug in my note taker? I think you just have to get really good at asking for what you need.
So, in other words, you're saying, to succeed, in a sense, you've got to be proactive and look at all the possible pitfalls and to eliminate them before things even start in terms of meeting someone.
I definitely think so. I watch a lot of Hallmark. I love romance, but at the same time, those are actors. They have a script, rehearsals, right? I think it's okay to have a plan. And then, either chemistry's there or it's not. But I also think that dating does not have to be a solo journey. I haven't dated with my friends physically, but I've dated with my friends remotely. They'll log into my account. They'll read profiles with me. What do you think of this guy? My type or not my type, or, they'll do my swiping. My assistant does my swiping, because the pictures in the phone are so small and it's a bit technical. So I think you can actually date with friends, with people. And maybe even go on a physical date. Maybe two people decide that's it. This is the year we're going to meet our somebody. And maybe they both go on Match.com or whatever site. Then, hey, each of you meet somebody, go on a double date. Now you're not by yourself.
Well, as you do meet someone, or you go out for, let's just say, the second date, and things begin to get serious, what's been your experience in those relationships evolving? Because that's less, I would imagine, less predictable. At least they are for me.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because when I think about the guys that I've actually had, 3-year, 4-year, 7-year relationships with, my vision loss was not a factor. They know that I'm fun. They know that I like to go travel. I get great feet massages, it wasn't a factor. And then for those that it was a factor, trust me, there were things I wasn't jiving about them either, So I think you just have to sometimes not let it be this big elephant in the room. Again, I think chemistry says a lot. And if somebody is going to love you, they're going to love you whether you can see or can't see. Personally, maybe it's a benefit because I don't see wrinkles. I don't see gray hair, just saying.
Well, what I hear you saying that, the first step certainly is to deal with your blindness and get that out of the way and know that after that, they have to like you as you are. In other words, get it taken care of in terms of people's knowledge and know that you're competent, regardless of sight or not, and then move from there. Am I hearing it right?
100%. But one has to be confident with their amount of vision they've lost first. It's that old philosophy, two strong halves make a whole. So it's the same philosophy here. If you're still finding yourself and you're uncertain, it's hard for the other person to make you whole. You have to find your own narrative, your own confidence, your own swagger first. But everybody really has something, I feel, I've had so many different conversations. I mean, men who are bald, men who are short, women who are overweight, somebody, might feel like they have a label on them, oh, you're going to know I'm divorced, right? Single parents, everybody has their own hardship. For me, it just happens to be not seen. But I got to tell you, in some ways, the more I go through life, the more I realize I'd rather be visually impaired than, hearing impaired, because I love music and I love the words, I love you. Or I'd rather be blind than to me in a wheelchair, only because I physically move really fast in my day. So for me, I have the right disability for me.
Yeah, I think that is the question about, knowing yourself as a woman with blindness, or knowing yourself as a woman, period, before we even talk about how other people see us or see you. How would you describe that?
Well, now this is where it gets interesting, because it has been years since I've even seen my own face. So, when I get ready to go on a date, I'm thinking, I wonder what I look like. How's my hair look? How does this dress look? But if you can't physically see it, which the legally blind, visually impaired community can't, then you got to go with how you feel inside. So like I'll put on some music. I've got myself dancing around the room and having a great time and curling my hair and feeling good in my dress, calling up the Lyft or the Uber. And so there's a certain momentum, a certain flavor of, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm having a good time. Like this getting ready process, I'm having a great time. And as a woman, we like to feel pretty. Put on the perfume, put on the dress, curl your hair, have fun. And then when you leave and you go to the date, again, wild card for everybody, sighted, unsighted, nobody knows what that's going to be like. Mm-hmm. And it may be the perfect person. It may be the right person for you, or it may not. And so then you just enjoy experimenting, meeting that new person, a different walk of life than you, but don't feel discouraged, because you still, have to get back on that saddle. You have to take that next date. But it's interesting, when I go home, even after a date that hasn't been necessarily the perfect match, I still get to go home with myself. And, I guess you get really good at dating yourself, and you really get good at even the nights you're alone, you've got your thing. I mean, there's nothing like watching, like I said, Hallmark with my guide dog Frost and my Chihuahua Charlie and having a glass of wine. We have the greatest time. So if you build, as a female, if you build a good time, then you ooze a good time. Then your date is a good time, whether it's romantic or friends. And then you leave there not feeling disempowered. You leave there going, well, I did it. I'm proud of myself. Oh, maybe next time.
So what do you think are might be some of the barriers to that might make it difficult for you or anyone to have those good feelings about being a woman, about to have a date, and do all the things that you say? Because what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But there's some people who really struggle with just the acceptance of themselves as a woman.
Well, I think it starts with obviously there's the inner work, right? So we live in a day now where a podcast just like this, you could listen to this. You could go onto any platform you want and find amazing shows that will boost your confidence, that will get you in the right headspace. So I think a lot of times you have to absorb inspiration. You have to hear successful romance stories. You have to, allow yourself to be inspired. Then from there, you figure out, okay, what am I going to wear? Well, have a friend, go shopping. I mean, I'll be honest, I've got my everyday clothes because I've got I've got a light colored Chihuahua and a golden lab, and you better believe I wear their hair on my everyday clothing, right? So there
Right.
are dresses I might go on a date in where I just hang them up immediately. I don't get them all hairy, and I know I'm leaving with a dress that looks good. Or you might learn how to put makeup on, and believe it or not, whether you have no vision or some vision, even by just feeling your face, you can put blush on,
Right.
lipstick on, right? So and again, I think people don't have to date alone, date with a friend. So I just think you have to set your own tone in life, but it does start with feeling inspired. And if, again, a dating app, a dating website does not inspire you, then go back to basics. Actually gone out to lunch or a happy hour where I've gotten a table by myself, just a spot at the bar or a table for one, and you're way more approachable by yourself than when you are with one friend or a group of friends.
Good.
So again, take yourself on a date, and who knows who you might meet.
So what you're saying, we have to, that you have to work on yourself first, really, and and develop that confidence about yourself and know that you're okay. And that's a big, and I kind of agree with you. It's a big chunk of it is because you're the only one that can work on you.
Yeah, and you know what? Don't forget to pack your humor on the date and
Right.
pre-date. You know what I mean? So to me, humor is important. I mean, I've worn a dress inside out. I've done it. I've tripped downstairs. I've ran into walls. I've actually gone to sit in a chair and it wasn't there and I fell on the ground. You
Yeah.
gotta have fun. And so I think at the end of the day, I mean, so what? We don't see well. We don't see at all. It doesn't define your ability to be loved and doesn't define your ability to give love. But if you make it such a big elephant in the room, if you give it so much power and it does define you, well, then that's where you're mentally getting in your own way. I mean, it's just vision loss. It's not your heart. It's not your soul. Do you know what I mean?
Perhaps you can talk a little bit about how you got that way. I mean, there's a lot of messages outside of us, men and women, about blindness, about, quote, helpless, so forth and so on. And, particularly for someone who's newly blind, but even if they've been blind for some time, family members will interfere. What do you advise people to do to help them get that confidence that we're talking about?
So it's a good question. So you might want to consider a support group, or you might want to consider bonding with organizations that are with others that are blind or visually impaired. I've worked with the Braille Institute. I live, in Orange County now, but I lived in LA, and I've been a part of both chapters. I've been a part of a lot of organizations for the blind and the visually impaired over the years. And you learn from each other, and you build each other up. And I meet people that, play instruments in nightclubs. I mean, they are the entertainment. I meet really impressive people, and you inspire each other, and you see wow, how far one can stretch and things that one can do. And so that would be a first step if somebody didn't feel like they had enough of that foundation. Now, for me, I have two sisters, right, that have the same eye condition I have. So, we three call each other all the time. I mean, we're different. Both of them are married and I'm the single one, but, there's confidence in camaraderie. My camaraderie is with my siblings, but if I didn't have them, then I'm sure I would be knee deep or thigh deep into more organizations, mingling and jingling with others like me. Now, outside of that, though, don't feel like you can't get a separate therapist on the side. Sometimes one has to talk out to a neutral person situations, fears, because sometimes your best sounding board is not your family. It's not your friends, not because they don't care, but in some ways they might be too protective, right? So
Right.
I'm a fan of, if you need a third party therapist or person, and in this day and age, you can get someone just by phone. Don't even have to leave their house. Like, you don't have to go to their office anymore, right? And then the last thing I would say is, if you're not sure about like dating, you're not sure about that kind of one-on-one, then just get yourself out and about. So whether, again, that's amongst the visually impaired blind community, going to fundraisers, going to events, whatever that may look like, or, I throw myself out into other local meetups. I do these. There's this website called meetup.com, and it's pretty much everywhere, and you can create a free
Right.
profile. Yep. And so I go to a lot of those, and of course, when I go to those, most people are not legally blind or visually impaired. But again, it allows me to get really good at my dialogue, right? So when someone says, "Hi, I'm Pam," and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Nancy." See, I've now defined the "Hi, I'm Nancy." Oh, just so you know, I'm legally blind. I mean, I just thought I'd let you know that up front, just in case. Or somebody might say, "Okay, hey, so nice meeting you. I'll see you soon. Okay, remember, you're going to see me before I see you," right? So the more you're out and about, even amongst those who can see, you just really start to define a new way that you talk about the fact that you can't see. So it doesn't make all that socialness awkward.
But I can imagine, people saying, "Oh, I can't do that. That's too scary," or "That's whatever," and put all kinds of barriers within themselves to keep them uh, from stepping out, particularly women, but men as well. Uh, it becomes real scary. And the question is, I think what you're saying is right. It's the question of getting people maybe hurting enough that they say, "I can't stay home anymore. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is making me crazy. And I need to go out no matter what happens. And I know I'm a woman. I know I feel vulnerable as a woman, but what choice do I have?" Am I saying it right?
Yeah, but again, I think that goes back to taking every step in the order that one needs. So again, first step is listening to podcasts, reading books, absorbing maybe the path of other blind, visually impaired people who have, dated, successfully married, successful in business, or just their path from their condition to where they are today. Like, I think it just garnish a lot of inspiration that way. Then the next step, when you're ready, would be the therapist or a support group, or starting to go to weekly or monthly meetings to be around others and kind of learn from others. Like, your confidence will slowly develop. And then once you feel good about that, then you're like, all right, well, I'll just put myself on a dating site. I don't have to go on the date, but I can at least dip my big toe in there, right? And then you start
Right.
to see what's possible. I mean, you could have phone dates and never really meet in person. That's fine. And so I think one just has to take a step forward, at the pace they want. I think you have to also, though, just be really, in some ways, a little bit more fearless, because I think a lot of times people think, oh, they're going to judge me, or oh, they might rob me, or, you know, if you think of all the things that could go wrong, well, that's pretty sad, because that is fear, and that's false evidence appearing real. You haven't been robbed. You haven't been bullied. You haven't gone on a date and someone turns you down.
Right.
Those are things that you think are going to happen, but they haven't happened. So to me, that gray zone of the woulda, coulda, shouldas, that's, you want to get out of that zone and into the, all right, I did go on a date. And you know what? That person wasn't my match, right? You know, I'm the
Right.
one who said no, right? Or you know what? All right, I'm on a website. I may not go on an actual date, but you know what? I'm on it, you know? So I think you just got to step towards empowerment.
So what you're talking about are the steps in terms of just building your own confidence, and if something doesn't work out, first time, second time, whatever, that's fine. That's the learning experience. See, if people can look at it from a point of view of what I'm hearing from you is learning how to do this thing called dating, this thing called relationships. And I think there's also the part in a relationship. I know for myself, as a male, I go to a gathering, and those people who want to take care of me come out of the woodwork, and they make me a little crazy. So it's kind of like you also have but it can be very comforting in a way if you have somebody who's going to take care of you. But that's not what you want. This is not what you're talking about. You're talking about you're an independent woman, and you don't need to be taken care of. You just need to get out there and try out different things, see what works for you, and not worry about somebody taking care of you, but know you can take care of yourself. Am I saying that right?
100%. Because again, if you are a strong half, then you're better to the other person you meet. You have to figure that out for yourself first. Like, you have to have that confidence. Life has to be good, you by yourself, and then the next person, they just complement it. And but you're 100% right. And I am so grateful for those that want to help. And, you know, we've all been there where somebody grabs your arm and they kind of grab it the way that's kind of awkward. So then you readjust it and you grab it the other way, right? Like people just don't know. But at the same
No,
time,
they don't know, and they
just
think
don't
they're
know.
helping.
Yeah, and they are, but you know, it's a little awkward the way they grabbed my arm, right? So then we grab it, we adjust. But I know, I don't know. I think the sweaty palms, the butterflies of a first date, it's not any different than the sweaty palms and the butterflies of putting yourself in an unknown situation. But to me, that is so much more full of life than just sitting on the couch Saturday after Saturday after Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true, regardless of whether somebody is blind or whatever. It's a matter of, we look to other people for our confidence, and that's not the place to look for it. I don't think.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think behind every great man is a great woman, and vice versa, right? Behind every great woman is a great man, right? But if love and chemistry was so easy to find, we'd all have it. So when you do find it, cherish it. But also, don't feel like you have to settle. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, this one person likes me. He really likes me. No, you have to make sure that person is a good fit for you. Otherwise, it could be a really long life. So,
don't sell yourself short.
Right.
Or even say, well, because he likes me, I better go for it because it might not be anybody else out there.
Yep. I've dated a couple narcissists in my time, and they have a bigger disability than I do.
Mm-hmm. 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 Any last words that you have for our audience?
I think it's just about getting started, taking action, and whether you do it alone or do it with a friend. And it's kind of those baby steps that I talked about. It just might be that you need a little nudge. You need that support group. You need that therapist. Just really get yourself strong. Then it's getting yourself socially around people, whether it's the visually impaired blind community or whether it's, that meetup.com or some other social circles where it's kind of everybody under the sun. And then it's about having fun, because I think people forget that. All this dating, building a business, finding a job, whatever that looks like with anything in life, if you make it seem like a daunting task, a huge mountain, dun, 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 it will be. But if you take the power back and you're like, I'm going to have fun. If this works out, great. If it doesn't, I tried. It's just got to start with your narrative and how you choose to see, the glass of life half full or half empty.
Fantastic. I really appreciate having you on, Nancy, because you've given a lot of good information to people. Is there a way that if somebody wants to contact you, that they can reach you?
Absolutely. They're welcome to email me at connect@livingfullout.com, and that's connect, normal spelling, and then and then living, LIVING, and then full, FULL, and then out.com. And that's really the best way to reach me. And of course, my company is livingfullout.com, so they can just hear more videos and inspiration that I give. But I don't know, I believe in your listeners. There's the old saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. I may be someone's teacher, or again, you may be, Bill, someone's teacher, or they'll find their teacher in a book or a podcast or beyond, but you just have to be willing to listen.
Thank you. A lot of good information, and I hope that it will inspire our listeners to take some risk, because that's the way people look at it right now, is risk. But what I hear is small steps building towards the freedom to be who you are and be out there instead of hiding away. That's terrific.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
It has been great. And this is Bill Lundgren signing off for Blind Sight. Again, a reminder, if you want to give feedback, telephone number is 720-712-8856, or feedback at aftersight.org. Thank you for being with us, and listen for the future issues, mental health issues for women over this next month.